Hey guys, this is Andrea from Soleil, and if you haven't heard of us yet, we're the ones you go to when you're looking to create your own skincare or personal care line. We do private label, we do custom formulating, and all the rest, so from A to Z. And today we're talking about an exciting topic. It's a hot topic that everyone's talking about, CBD.
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 Yes, that's correct.
I have Tama here with us, one of our chemists at Soleil, and he's going to help us kind of break down the ins and outs and understand CBD a bit better, because there's so much happening around CBD now, and we see it everywhere, but we don't necessarily know what it is, what it's supposed to be doing, why we should be using it, or why we don't want to use it. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure.
What is CBD?
Well, so before we even actually get into CBD, I kind of just want to go over how and where it actually comes from. So, I am definitely pro at this, and speaking of the actual herb and people use it recreationally. I definitely don't have any experience with that.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. But I want to talk about the botanical family that CBD actually is derived from. So there are two major families of the cannabis plant, indica and sativa. Okay. For the cannabis to be considered hemp, okay, it has to be from the sativa family, and it has to contain less than 0.3% THC. Okay, THC is going to be another compound that is very similar to CBD. However, for recreational users, that's mostly what they're going to be looking at. That's kind of the psychoactive ingredient, for recreational uses.
So THC is the psychoactive, the one that gives you that high.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And in terms of cosmetics, we talk a lot about, hemp and all of these things. A very popular ingredient that we normally use is hemp seed oil. Okay. The inky name is cannabis sativa oil. Right. And that is actually pressed from the seeds of the hemp plant, which is a similar profile to other things like flaxseed oil or borage oil. These are just common oils that we use in, skincare naturally. It can get oxidized fairly easily, which results in a darker color. If you ever look at hemp seed oil, it's kind of, it looks like coffee in a way, very thick and rich. Yeah.
So hemp seed oil, I know actually Soleil was working with for years. I mean, back in the 90s, I think we launched one of our first lines with hemp seed oil, the O2CH line. So why did we start working with hemp seed oil? What are the benefits of hemp seed oil? Right.
So like I said, hemp seed oil, sometimes referred to as the cannabis sativa seed oil, is it's a perfectly great oil that's high in antioxidants. It's got omega-3s and omega-6 fatty acids. But here's the kicker. It actually does not contain any CBD. So it has absolutely no cannabinoids in it. And I think that is a very clear difference. That needs to be mentioned, because we're going to be using a lot of terms and words that describe hemp and cannabis and all of that, and it gets very confusing. So hemp seed oil does not mean CBD, nor does it mean THC.
Three very different things.
It's very different, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to remind you, for hemp seed oil, it has to come from the sativa family. Okay, and we're talking the leaves, we're talking the stems, we're talking the seeds, and it has to contain less than 0.3% THC.
Okay,
right?
Got it.
And at that point, that's the government standard of making sure that there's going to be absolutely no way where the users will become affected perhaps by the psychoactive ingredient THC. Now, THC will always come as a trace in the actual raw material. So that 0.3% standard is it's kind of just a regulation, if you will. Yeah.
So it has to be below that.
Yes.
It can't be above that for us to use either hemp or CBD in our cosmetic products.
Exactly. And these are the type of the paperwork, especially when we're sourcing raw materials, is very crucial. And then when we talk about actual CBD, it's even more crucial just because it is regulated and such. So, yep.
Got it.
Yeah. So moving on. So you asked, what is CBD? So CBD, cannabidiol It's the non-psychoactive cannabinoid present that's present largely in the hemp plant. Okay. So the cannabis plant, it produces over around 113 known cannabinoids, with the most popular ones being THC, which stands for tetrahydrocannabinol, and CBD as well, which is cannabidiol.
Okay.
And then there's a whole bunch of other ones, notably cannabinol, CBN, or cannabigerol, which is CBG, right? These are
I've
some
heard
of the
of
things.
CBG.
Exactly, yeah. They're becoming a little bit more popular nowadays.
Yeah.
Just because I know a lot of manufacturers and even in recreational uses, they have to differentiate themselves. So some of these companies are highlighting the importance of other cannabinoid compounds that are very similar to THC or very similar to CBD as well.
Okay. Yeah, because we've actually been getting a lot of requests to formulate with different, they're calling it strains, but I don't know if that's the right terminology, but with different strains of the plant, so CBG, CBN, because it's thought that maybe some of these different forms have different properties for the skin.
Right.
So that's where we kind of explore CBG and the other, strains of the plant.
Absolutely. If we're talking about just raw CBD oil, when it's derived from the plant, for recreational uses, they're going to be really a combination. We talked about indica and sativa. If we're just getting, raw CBD oil, perhaps to be used in a cartridge or an edible, if you will, they're going to be most likely can come from different strains by using different hybrids between indica and sativa.
Okay.
And what that produces is a different profile of the amount of cannabinoids in the product. So it can have a little bit more of maybe THC from the indica side of the leaves, and then it'll also have a little bit more or less CBD coming from the hemp side of the plant.
Got it.
The sativa side.
Got it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, in general, we want to really relate this to our skincare and perhaps our hair care as well. And how do we do that? So I just kind of want to get into why it's very important for us and for us to use on our own bodies.
Okay.
Right. So I believe it's for around 2 decades now that scientists know that we have endocannabinoids receptors on our skin. Okay. Obviously, with the government regulations and the laws, and the actual, marijuana drug being classified as a, number 1 drug, we're getting to really study it a lot more, especially these days. And we know that we have 2 types of receptors in our bodies. It's CB1 and CB2 receptors.
Okay.
Now, this system, the endocannabinoid system, exists in our bodies to help regulate our immune functions, which directly affects our immune system. Okay. Now, that's mostly going to be for, recreational use, right? If you're smoking the actual herb, the plant. Now, how it relates to our skin is that the CB2 receptors are actually found in our skin. Yeah. So,
wow.
I want to talk a little bit about where it's found. So, first of all, we have something called keratinocytes, which constitute 90% of the cells of the epidermis. Okay, this is the outermost layer of the skin. We know that these cells have been found to contain CB2 receptors, right? So that's something to take note of. We know that there's receptors on our skin for, the endocannabinoids, right? Another one too is the sebaceous glands. They're kind of the microscopic exocrine glands in our skin that secrete an oily or waxy matter, right? So you kind of know where I'm heading in.
What gives you pimples, basically.
Exactly, yeah. These glands, they produce sebum, right? And too much sebum, we know, can clog our pores,
right,
and produce pimples and acne. So these glands have also been found to contain these CBD receptors as well. And this is why, because these cells have found to contain receptors, we figure a lot of the scientists want to see if using CBD type products can actually benefit our skin.
Okay. Wow. Very interesting. So I know that this comes with a bunch of controversy because there's so much research out there, and it's not so conclusive, but it would be interesting, I think, for our listeners to hear about what type of benefits you could possibly see with CBD. I know that, CBD oil is really rich in antioxidants. So obviously that's good for your skin. That's good for anti-aging. It's good for kind of protecting your skin from free radicals. Like you said, our sebaceous glands have the receptors, so maybe there's some type of benefit for oil regulation and preventing acne. I know that CBD is known for its properties to kind of calm inflammation down. So if you have some sort of irritation or breakout, I know people that will use CBD on their breakouts, but I know that there's nothing that's super conclusive that we can say about CBD because there's so much research out there.
Right.
And I guess the best way to kind of find that out is if you were to do clinical testing and actually see results.
Absolutely. Yeah. And most notably, we'll get into the specifics for sure. However, I just want to say, in general, putting CBD on your skin is going to be very different than putting and ingesting actual CBD type products, right? So that's the main difference. And I just want to say in general, CBD has, a lot of, these days, a lot of people are claiming a lot of benefits, but in general, CBD it's central to, our body's regulation. It's really how the body maintains and returns to our baseline state of being healthy after it's being disturbed by many different things, in your daily life, right? Like if you're walking on the street, there's pollution, there's things that affect your skin. Hopefully what CBD will do, and hopefully there'll be further studies to show that CBD can actually, help maintain those healthy cell functions of our skin.
Wow,
right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so let's get right into it.
Yep.
So first of all, we talked about the sebaceous glands. The CBD is used in a lot of products currently for acne-prone skin. Okay, I think most notably CBD has been come to be known as a kind of like an anti-inflammatory ingredient. Right. Many factors trigger acne, but we know that when CBD is applied to the skin, it is most likely to reduce breakouts and, acne-related redness, really.
Right.
So
a big thing for many people.
Exactly, yeah. Now, can other things also be anti-inflammatory? Absolutely. CBD just happens to be, just being very well known for anti-inflammatory conditions. Right. So, in terms of other things such as wrinkles, anti-aging, it's because CBD has a lot of antioxidant properties. Okay, and when I'm talking about CBD now, I'm talking about CBD oil because just by CBD itself, we know that when it's packed together, with other compounds, or the other endocannabinoids from the actual plant, it kind of works in a synergistic effect. Okay. Right, it's kind of like the whole team versus just one player of the team. Right. And we know that because there's a lot of antioxidants, from the actual plant itself. A lot of those extracts and compounds, the chemical compounds in them, also help with wrinkles and anti-aging just because of those antioxidant properties, along with the rest of the compounds found in the plant. Right. Right. And I would say for the most part, that is, really what how CBD is being used in the industry currently.
In skincare.
Exactly.
What about hair care?
Yeah, so hair care. In terms of hair care, CBD, I've also seen products that are found in shampoos and conditioners.
So have I.
Exactly. So you have to realize too, the spaces between our hair particles and hair follicles, there is skin there as well. And so that's one of the things that, we have to realize is that we can actually also still incorporate CBD into hair care formulations. Okay. Yeah. So what are the benefits that you may look for in a hair care product with CBD? Right. So another example would be CBD with hair thinning prevention ingredients. Okay, very cool. We're not saying that CBD will prevent, it's the sole ingredient that will prevent hair thinning.
Right.
But we know that when combined with other ingredients, such as peptides that are formulated to fight against those, hair thinning qualities, it may have some benefits to that as well.
Interesting. Very cool. Okay. And then what about pain relief? Because I know that's a huge thing now. Everyone's looking for a CBD cream to apply after you've worked out, or if, some people have muscle soreness, joint issues. We get requests all day long to formulate products with CBD specifically for pain relief.
Right. We kind of already talked about it, with CBD oil being very anti-inflammatory, that goes very well with ingredients such as menthol or basically analgesic type of ingredients, right? Methyl salicylate, think Bengay, if you will. A lot of those types of products are already anti-inflammatory in that it gives you kind of a numbing, cooling sensation. And with CBD's anti-inflammatory properties, it makes sense to design a product that has both types of qualities in those types of ingredients to be used as an overall package.
So it'll enhance whatever other ingredients are in there that are just trying to reduce inflammation, which is what's causing the pain in the first place.
Yes, that's correct.
Understood. So, odd question, but if I'm coming to you to formulate a product, why would I choose to formulate with CBD versus hemp, or hemp versus CBD?
Right. So like I said, hemp oil or cannabis sativa seed oil, it doesn't have any CBD, right? So that's kind of one of the things already. It does have great antioxidants, and we already mentioned omega-3s, omega-6, which is already great for the skin. However, hemp seed oil, like we said, is not CBD oil, or even just CBD by itself as an isolate. And so you're going to be missing a certain potential for the CBD's anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay, so you're missing out on some benefits using just hemp versus CBD.
Right.
And the other way around too,
Exactly.
using just CBD versus hemp.
That's correct.
So most often when you're formulating a product with CBD, are you using both, or just depends?
I would say it just depends. It just depends, because some products, like I said, if you're going for a product that's going to be for used in analgesics, you just want to, you have a sore knee, somewhere in your joints, and you want to rub, kind of like a serum or a cream to alleviate the pain. Perhaps you don't necessarily need antioxidant properties,
right?
Because you do have to realize with a lot of cosmetics, we do have to use it daily, right?
Right.
And so depending on the type of product and the application, it can or cannot be suitable.
Okay. All right. So really, I'd be looking to have hemp plus CBD when I'm looking for more of a cosmetic product.
Right. Exactly.
Because I want all of those benefits for my skin.
Absolutely.
I don't want the wrinkles. I don't want the inflammation. I want to look all pretty and beautiful. So I would utilize both.
Right.
Whereas if I'm doing something for, let's say, pain relief, I don't necessarily need the hemp in there.
That's correct.
Very cool.
That's correct.
And I think you touched upon this a little bit, but let's go back. There are a lot of requests I get for either a product with broad spectrum CBD or CBD isolate. And so from our information, I'm gathering that isolate is just the CBD, none of the other strains, and broad spectrum would include all of them.
Right. Yeah. So
is that correct?
That's very close. Very close.
Okay.
So let's get into that right now. So you mentioned a lot of names. So there's full spectrum CBD. There's broad spectrum CBD, and then I've also mentioned CBD isolate. And there's also CBD terpsilate as well. I know it's really crazy. Yeah. So we'll just start breaking it down, starting from full spectrum CBD.
Okay. All
right. So full being meaning whole plant. Okay. It'll also include things such as terpenes, the cannabinoids, which we've already talked about, the flavonoids, fatty acids, and then obviously it'll definitely have your THC and your CBD.
Okay.
Right. So full spectrum may not be suitable in cosmetics because we personally do not want to use anything that contains THC.
Right.
there's really no use for it on our skin. We're not going to feel the high by putting it on our skin.
Right.
Right. And we're definitely not going to be ingesting our cosmetics.
Right. Definitely not.
Definitely no need. So that kind of moves us over to something called broad spectrum.
Okay.
Yes. Broad spectrum. It's basically the whole plant minus THC.
Got you.
Right. So like we talked about, there's going to be terpenes, there's going to be our cannabinoids, our flavonoids, fatty acids, and CBD.
Okay.
Right, obviously.
What, just to pause you real quick, what are terpenes?
Terpenes are going to be, they're long unsaturated carbon chains. Okay. Which to us they're basically molecules that are found in essential oils or plants. Right. So, if you're using things like, lavender oil or things like that, there'll be these compounds. They're kind of aromatic, if you will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And flavonoids?
And flavonoids, basically compounds that have flavor, have certain types of characteristics of flavors.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, talking about the different types of CBD, it relates to the cosmetic industry, but then it's also for use for recreational, right? Where people actually ingest these types of ingredients, right? So that's why we talk about everything as a whole.
Got you. Okay. So that was full spectrum. That was broad spectrum.
That was broad spectrum, which also has, the flavonoids and the cannabinoids and the terpenes also in the full spectrum.
Gotcha.
Minus the THC.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we also talked about the CBD isolate. That one's just an easy one. Being an isolate is just CBD.
Okay.
Right. And it's usually a white oil soluble compound.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very easy to determine exactly how much you need to use in the actual formula. Sometimes using a broad spectrum oil, depending from supplier to supplier, it's really everywhere.
Right.
Sometimes, you'll get a 50% active CBD in a broad spectrum oil. In another company, we would use, it would be maybe an 80% active compound of CBD.
Right.
Yeah. So making sure we have the regulatory paperwork and the lab testing that goes along with it is very important. And it's very important, especially when we're, doing the manufacturing. We want to make sure our raw ingredients and raw materials are exactly what they say they are.
Right. Yeah. So is that just based on how it's extracted? What percentage of CBD is in the raw material?
Exactly. Yeah. So some suppliers may combine different strains and different extracts and things as such, or they'll add more CBD depending on the type of products, because there are so many types of CBD products that you can get. Yes, it really just depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So similarly to CBD versus hemp in terms of benefits, there's also difference in benefits if I'm using broad spectrum versus isolate. Right.
So with the CBD isolate, you're obviously just focused on using CBD and perhaps its anti-inflammatory, qualities.
Right.
Now, with the broad spectrum, it's kind of difficult to say at this point. Many people are saying, especially when they ingest it, you get the full bang for your buck benefits, just because it does have the other compounds, like the terpenes, flavonoids we talked about. And people say that for CBD and other cannabinoids to work on our endocannabinoid system in our bodies to the fullest, that it should have the whole gang, the whole, compounds, even if it's not a cannabinoid from the plant.
Okay.
Right? So if that is the case, then, using broad spectrum in our cosmetics would probably be the best choice.
Okay.
But like I said, it really does depend on the goals that you're trying to achieve with your product.
Right. So if I'm looking for a skincare line or maybe even a makeup line or a hair care line, I should probably be looking at broad spectrum.
Sure, yeah.
If I'm looking for more of a pain relief, then I would be okay using an isolate.
Absolutely. Okay. And if you want to make specific claims, if you want 10 mgs per ounce or per product, however you want to do it, perhaps using even CBD isolate would be the easiest, just because you don't have to always worry about, coming from the suppliers and how much of the active is in the oil, because it does change from batch to batch, from lot to lot.
So using isolate would make it much more, from a formulating perspective, much easier, because you don't have to worry about what percentage of CBD is that raw material.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people are looking to claim certain concentrations, right? So there could be a cream with 10 milligrams of CBD per ounce. There could be a cream with 100 or even more, 500. We've done, I think it was up to 1,000 milligrams per ounce. Which was one of our crazier products that we formulated. So
that's correct.
What do we know about the concentration and what that does for us? I mean, obviously, the more of something, the better is the common, perception. But how true is that?
Right. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult right now. I think a lot of, scientists, and a lot of the articles that I'm trying to read and stay on top, a lot of people will just recommend the actual dosage of how much CBD to include. But I would say currently right now, especially for skincare, I wouldn't say there's particularly any dosage that is the absolute standard.
Okay.
But we can talk about things that are on the market. So, we've seen, serums go for around 8 milligrams per milliliter of product. We've seen acne creams go from 1 milligram per milliliter. Let's see. And like I said, we've done many products that are even higher than that. Right. So it really is currently all over the place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I would say, especially for CBD, it is not necessarily more the better. If anything, just because we know that CBD tries to bring balance to our, endocannabinoid system, it's just, in general, no matter what concentration you want it to be or you're getting it at, you should be just using it daily.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, because it has anti-inflammatory properties, perhaps anti-aging, but it's not a cure for everything. And we know that in order to get the full benefits, we should be using it. If we will use it, we should be using it consistently and daily.
Okay. So not so much about how much CBD is in my product, more so, am I using this regularly? Am I using this every day to get the full benefits?
Right.
Okay. Now, I mentioned this product that we made with 1,000 milligrams of CBD per ounce, and you and I kind of chuckled because it was a difficult product to formulate. In terms of making a product stable, in terms of what we do here every day, which is custom formulation, why was that so difficult for us, to get a product that was for pain relief with 1,000 milligrams of CBD per ounce? Right.
So you already touched upon it. You kind of said the key word is for pain relief. So yes, that product was for a muscle cream. So I would say the most difficult thing about that project or making that product is to make sure that the 1,000 milligrams of CBD that's incorporated per ounce of product was incorporated at the end of the formulation. So, with CBD, we do not want to heat it up because that can start destroying a lot of the compounds that we talked about. And so a lot of these terpenes and things such as even the endocannabinoids in general, they are prone to heat. And so making sure that a cream dissolves that much CBD towards the end of the process is fairly difficult without the usage of heat. And so, we have to make sure there's a very good mixing blades and things like that in production. Got it. So I would say that is probably the most difficult part about that.
Okay. So. And then another cool thing that we noticed is that over time, the cream turned purple. Right. Why was that?
Right. So CBD, because it has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, and when it's exposed to a lot of, light and air, it can oxidize. And it's going to be very similar to what you see with coconut water, right? Sometimes coconut water is pink.
It turns pink. Yeah,
exactly,
that's right.
Yeah. So, that's just a process called oxidation. And that definitely does occur in our cosmetics. Now, the only thing to that is, it does change the appearance of the product. Right. And so if you have a lot of CBD in your product, that is something to note as well, especially if you're doing custom formulations. But other than that, it should be fairly safe. for the skin.
So it's better to have it in a colored component versus a clear glass or a clear plastic component, trying to protect it from the light.
Yes. So far from what we know, we always recommend to our clients, to use light sensitive packaging when we're dealing with cannabidiol, especially. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then what do we know about how potent CBD stays in a formulation over time? So if I have a CBD cream with like 50 milligrams per ounce on the shelf, what happens to that 50 milligram concentration after 6 months, after a year? Does it stay the same? Do I have to worry about it?
Right. So because, things are changing, things are becoming oxidized, the efficacy of the CBD may not be the same, from when it's freshly made to over 1 year to 2 years. A lot of cosmetic manufacturing probably will not test for those concentration and the efficacy of CBD, how much is in there after a year, over 2 years. So, if our clients are inclined, they can always get those. They can always go to a third-party laboratory to get it tested for the active compound CBD. And get the actual percentages. But we do know that over time it does degrade.
Right.
And so that is definitely something to be careful about.
Right. Okay. So maybe the shelf life of your product, maybe a little less if you have super high concentration of CBD.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us another cool fact about CBD that we haven't touched upon. We touched upon quite a bit, but is there anything else that we should know?
I would say in general, it's just, CBD, it's kind of a newer ingredient in the cosmetic industry. And it'll take time to really flesh out a lot of, the exact details and why we're actually using it for certain specific reasons, and especially to make claims. But I will say that it looks like the direction that it's going is that it's just getting even more popular.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I know currently there really isn't any negatives to it at the moment, especially when you're using it for skincare.
Yeah.
And so I'm very hopeful for the popularity of CBD.
Of this ingredient. Yeah. I mean, from a marketing perspective, people ask me all the time, is this a trend that's coming and going, or is this here to stay? And it really looks like it's here to stay. It looks like it's growing at a very rapid rate. So purely from a marketing perspective, to have CBD in your products, especially now, might be super beneficial for sales.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's super saturated just yet, but it'll probably get there in like 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Okay, cool. Thank you, Tama, so much for all the information.
Sure.
And let us know if you guys have any questions, comments. Let us know about what you think about CBD, any research that you found for some benefits. I mean, we spoke about anti-aging benefits, acne, helping with acne prevention, inflammation, pain relief. So if you know of any of those benefits that you want to share with us, please comment and let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.